I just want to say to each person who is out there who feels defeated, who feels like their life is not worth it, who feels like they have no way to get out of whatever you're in, it doesn't even matter. God is so much bigger than that. I'm just here to tell you that I promise you, if you just start off one little positive thing, then, just try. Do not give up. Do not give up. Do not give up, because there's such a bigger plan than you giving up. I can promise you that. And there is no one that would be happy that you gave up. They'd be so sad.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Another story, another journey, another incredible way. And I got, I got to kind of say this because most people don't know. I kind of have different compartments in my life. I've got a lot of Lego things that I do. Obviously, many of you know my voice from this narrative, from the podcast things that we do here. But on the other hand, I have a whole nother thing that we do, and it does have the same passion because we're telling stories and working with kids and parents, and it's in our Lego world. Well, this past weekend, I met Shela, and we were in Pittsburgh, and we were doing what's called the Ultimate Brick Show. Great. We had a great time being able to get to know Shela. And it was at that point, I was like, oh man, we got to get this story on our narrative. And so this is, in my mind, this is a beautiful intertwining, woven part of how our lives come together, from not just the things that we do, but also the stories that we tell, the stories that we create, and how we are navigating our own lives. And so, man, I'm kind of excited about it. We were talking in the green room, and we were just like, okay, wait, stop. We got to get this on recording, because there's just so many cool little stories and pieces and parts that bring our lives together. So first of all, Shela, thank you for taking the time out of your day. I know it's busy with all of the nonprofit stuff, the pieces. We'll get into all of that, but thank you for taking time today.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And I didn't even know that I liked Legos until that's a whole new thing. I like Legos now.
Well, it was funny in a good way. Funny, like, haha, oh, this is really pleasant. A lot, because you brought us several volunteers, and I know a dad and a daughter came, and I forgot their names. I apologize, but it was interesting because just watching them interact, and that's what we're passionate about, is connecting parents with kids, and then obviously building and crafting those relationships and stories, which is exactly the passion that we have here. And they were all like, wow, this is so cool. I didn't realize we could do this much with Lego. So that's a story for another day. We'll kind of put that up on the shelf. But it was definitely cool to watch all of the people get active and then tell their stories. And frankly, there was several stories that came out from some of the vets that we were working with or had there as far as volunteers. And I know that those just powerful, powerful stories. And I greatly appreciate all of those that helped out with that. But let's get started with this. Let's get started where we usually do, and let's answer this question for the audience. Who is Shela? And I love asking this question and looking at it in a term of, let's say we've got 60, 90 seconds, whatever, a minute or two. Who is Shela, and how can you introduce yourself to our audience?
Well, I am a mom of 4. I am a wife of 15 years. And most of all, I am a child of God. And that is really, I do a lot of things, obviously, but those things are not who I am. So I really pride myself in, I feel like, my character. I'm a good friend. I pride myself in those type of things more than in what I do.
So you just said something, which I think this is going to be a great springboard for how we jump into the conversation. And this is, again, what we've been talking about. You said you do a lot of things, but that's not necessarily who I am. That's not how I identify. Can you go just a little bit deeper in why that is? Because let me kind of frame it. That way we can kind of jump into this and really kind of start uncovering. So often our world or society tells us that the identity of who we are is how much money we make, the success, the titles, all of these different things that kind of come together that are supposed to form our identity. But you just said, man, I do a lot of things. And I know, just because of just getting to know you, you hold a lot of titles. You're doing a lot of different activities and work-related type stuff. So you just, again, coming back to this, you said, I do a lot of things. And I'm assuming that obviously you do stuff within your family, you do stuff within the nonprofit, you do all of these things, but that's not how you identify. So can you kind of peel back that onion and figure out like what actually is going on behind that?
Well, first of all, I pray that everyone would get to a place in their life where they would truly, not in what they do, but how they do it is more of their identity. And I find so often that, even where we work, we have a pizza shop, and you'll get people who come in there and they want to be managers, but they don't want to clean the toilets. And so I'm like, I'll be the first one that will go in and clean the toilet. Yes, we own the pizza shop, but we're going to be the first ones to clean the toilet, because it's not about, you can't get to the next level, I believe, if you're not willing to do the down and dirty stuff. And that next level isn't going to ever determine who you truly are, whether you have hundreds of millions of dollars or you have no money to your name. I was in both places in my life. Well, I never had $100 million, but I mean, I feel like I do now, even though I don't really, but that's just because the joy. But truly, whether you have a lot of money or you have no money, it's about who you are inside of you, and how you act and how you treat people, and really how you see yourself is so much more important than the titles you have or the money that you make. That's just how I feel.
Hmm. Is that always how you felt? So maybe we should
No,
rewind the clock here. How do you
no.
get to a point like that? I mean, there's so many things that I know in my own personal life. You seek to find your value. And if I just do this one more thing, and if I can just hit this next title, if I can just hit this next dollar amount, then I know that I'm going to be fulfilled and I'm going to find value and I'm going to be confident. And yet it's always hollow. It's always empty. And the things that you're saying, and I know this is where we're going to go, but let's maybe rewind that clock and say, okay, where did you start? Because that's an incredible statement to say, this is where I am. But where did you
Mm-hmm.
start?
Not there. Definitely.
Right.
Definitely not there. I was the person who didn't have a lot growing up, I'll be honest with you. And so I didn't have a lot growing up. So the reality is in that, I think my mom did everything that she could, but with not having a lot, I had a mindset that I was gonna be and have everything that I never had when I was a child. And that meant working, that meant having all the material things, that meant making sure that I was the one who had the titles, who had the nice house, who had all of the quote unquote important things in life. And that was what was the forefront, the making the money, it didn't matter the relationships built or not built, it was the money. And what I realized in all of that was that never filled the void. There was such a void in my heart, and I was still, there was an insecurity. There was still all of these things happening inside of me, that money, that void, that hours and hours of working couldn't fill. No matter how much I put into it, it just couldn't fill it.
So forgive me, but we're going to go down a little path here. So, because I think there's a word in here that exemplifies what it is that we are trying to do. And you were mentioning, okay, you grew up poor. There were some things that you didn't have. And I'm gonna throw this word out and see if this resonates with you. I'm gonna throw the word out: control. You grew up in a situation that was chaos, that you did not have control. And so therefore, in order to create and fill that void, you were going to exert complete control over your life, your money, your situation, your title. And that was supposed to fill that void. It was supposed to create that fulfillment. Is that true for you? Does that resonate with you?
Absolutely. I would say that if you asked numerous people in that situation, in the situation that I was at, they would probably say yes. Because when you are in there and you're not doing it for the right reasons, if there's a void in there, that's exactly how it's going to be. You want to control it, and it's just you. You're not relying on, for myself, I became a Christian, so I rely on God now, and there's a totally different place that I'm at. But whether you're there or you're not, either way, you're going to be trying to fill a void that you've lost in trying to have control of everything. Like, you have to let go at some point to someone, to something, whether you're letting go to God like I do, or you're letting go to something else. If you want to live and have control over your whole life, there's still going to be that void there because you're
Mm,
never going to have control over everything.
yeah, and that's so true. So if we back this up a little bit, and I love where this is going because we're actually setting the framework for all of the pieces and the parts that everything that kind of comes together here. My question is this, and you share what you're comfortable with. How did you attempt to exert that control in order to fill that void? So most of the time when we ask this question, it's okay, what did you think your career was going to be like? What did you think you were going to be doing as a job? And then how's that changing? But in this situation, I think you were seeking that fulfillment through the career. And so there's this shift in your mind of it really wasn't the career. It was this other aspect of filling and trying to create and fill that void by controlling. And yeah, you're going to do it. So what were the things that you attempted to exert control over?
Well, I'll be honest. I mean, everything. I worked a lot, money, material things. I needed to control I needed everyone around me to see that I was successful, and how I deemed success was by the things that I had, not by where I was in life or how I treated people. It was by the material things that I had. And it wasn't something at the time that I thought needed changed. I'll be very honest with you. But when I then became quickly, I went from very quote unquote successful in my mind at that time to homeless and had nothing, was when, and I always say that's probably the best thing that's ever happened in my life, because when I was homeless, I was able to see who I was able to break and see who I really needed to be and who Sheila really was, without all of the stuff that I was trying to hold on to and fill voids from lack thereof as a child.
So that's a shift. That's a major life event that happens within your world. So can I ask the question, how did you get to homeless? It sounds like you actually worked extremely hard
Mm-hmm.
to have stuff, to create material possessions, to have a title. You worked extremely hard and all of a sudden that was stripped away. So can I ask what event triggered that, basically the major life shift from having things and titles to all of a sudden being homeless?
Yeah, I had my daughter out of wedlock, and so her father and I were not good together. And I used to say he abused me, but the reality is what we were not good together. But he had threatened to, and I believed at the time that he was going to kill us. He was going to burn the house down, was his exact words. He would burn the house down. And so I had taken her, and we had left. And we had went to Pennsylvania, where I'm at now. And we had left, went to Pennsylvania. And what I didn't realize is that, so I left basically everything that I had in Michigan, came to protect her, to protect myself, to protect her, left all the material things behind, and did not realize that that was going to be a season of needing to be broken. And so
Mm,
that season, I couldn't get a job because I didn't have a license, because I couldn't get a license because I didn't have a permanent house. Like, money runs out. And so I had a friend who had a camping spot. So we camped there for almost 7 months. And it was not until I was at my very last where I was actually considering, taking my own life, because Aaliyah deserved better than that. And I did not something, I believe that it was the Lord now, but did not allow me to. I was going to go over a hill, and my car, I feel like, didn't go, even though I wanted it to go, it didn't go. And so everything kind of changed at that point, but it wasn't like right there, oh yeah, like the heavens opened up. It
yeah.
was there. It was like stuff just needed a shift, and I needed to change my life, I realized. So
Can you talk a little bit about that season of life? You mentioned, and here's the reason why I want you to just kind of share your emotions, your feelings, the physical exhaustion. I'm sure that was very present, the mental exhaustion. Can you share a little bit about that? Because I know people that are listening, there are some that are at that point right now, where they're just at that level of I can't go on. I can't. And like you mentioned, you got to the level of, okay, it is better for me to end my life because everybody did, everybody that's dependent on me deserves better. And so you got to that, I'll call it the exhaustion, but the breaking point. Going through those 7 months, you said you needed to be broken. Nobody wants to be broken.
No.
Nobody looks at this and says, "Oh boy, can you just go ahead and break me?" I mean, nobody wants to do that. You come out the other side realizing how powerful it was and how necessary it was. But when you're in it, when you're stepping into it and your world's crashing down, that's not how you feel. You don't have that grateful. You're not like, "Oh, I mean, the world's stacked against you at that moment and you're running out of energy on all levels." So can you kind of share a little bit of that part and then what got you through? And then after we get done that, then I want to transition into, okay, what was that major turning point of that relief and going? But for right now, I just want to talk to those that are right in the middle of that brokenness or that trial or that 7 months or whatever. I want to talk to those people.
Yeah. So when I think about that, I start to cry because my heart still aches, and it still aches for the people who are going through it right now, because I can still feel the pain that I was feeling in those moments, the defeat, the like, what did my life, like, how did this come to this point? um the feeling lonely, the feeling alone, the feeling of everybody would be better off, especially my daughter, but the people that were closest to me who loved me the most would be better off without me here. Those feelings, I feel like played over and over in my head 24 hours a day, all night. And now I look back and I'm so thankful that I didn't do that because of everything that we have now, 4 kids, grandbaby, we have a beautiful life. And I just want to say to each person who's going through that stage in their life right now, like, take time out and focus on, even if it's just one little small thing. Like, you may not be able to find something your whole life is positive about, but just take one small thing and think positive about it just for a moment through the 24 hours. Because I'm telling you right now, I can promise you that there is nobody that would be at your funeral that is going to say, "Good, I'm glad they're not here no more." I recently was at a funeral of one of my very good friends. Her son had committed suicide, and it was, it still is, it's been a year. And the screams that came from a mother's heart, and the people who are there, I just want to say to each person who is out there who feels defeated, who feels like their life is not worth it, who feels like they have no way to get out of whatever you're in, it doesn't even matter. God is so much bigger than that. Whatever you're in, I'm just here to tell you that I promise you, if you just start off one little positive thing, then just try. Do not give up, do not give up, do not give up, because there's such a bigger plan than you giving up. I can promise you that. And there is no one that would be happy that you gave up. They'd be so sad. Don't
Yeah.
allow it. Sorry.
No, you're totally fine. And I think this is where I'm just going to actually put in a little bit of a piece here, because I agree with everything that you're saying and the gratitude and focused on that one positive thing. And sometimes it's a struggle to find that one positive thing. The one thing that I will say, and I usually say this at the end of what we're doing, but I'm going to say it now because this is the key. This is the time, especially for those that feel that loneliness, is we are here. And Shela and Andrew, her husband, they run Heroes Never Alone. Specifically, the whole title, Never Alone. And now they focus on the vets, but that's not an exclusive thing. And if you feel, or you're like, hey, I got nobody to talk to, I guarantee you pick up that phone and you call Shela, because we're going to it's heroesneveralone.org. You can actually get in contact with people there. Or if you contact me, I mean, either one of us. If you're feeling like, hey, I'm alone, there's nobody I can talk to, I'm telling you right now, both of our hearts, and I know as well as Andrew, because I met Andrew, everyone that works with Heroes Never Alone, they're willing to listen and talk with you. So don't ever, ever fall prey to that lie that is in your head about the fact that you're the only one and that you're all alone, because I promise you, there are people that love you. There are people that are there, and people that have never met you care for you. And
Mhm.
so I want to make sure I express that at this time, because I think it's a really an important aspect of what we're talking about and how we actually talk about and go through our transitions. Now, you mentioned that you were homeless and and literally camping in a tent
Mhm.
for 7 months, because of loss of identity, loss of material things, loss of home, loss of, I mean, that relationship, as abusive, as toxic as that was, it was still, there was some stability in a relationship. There were things being provided, needs being met, but separating that for life and limb is kind of a really hard decision when you're trying to balance out all of those things. My point is, as we look at these things, it may not be as grand, and I don't like that word either, but it may not be as turbulent. That's probably a better word. It may not be as turbulent as that. But I have talked with enough men who have lost jobs, enough women who have lost their jobs, lost their careers, and have felt that they're in that position. They may not be homeless, but their minds go directly to that, and there's many different people that have security, I'll call that very loosely, stability, and yet they still feel alone. And so it's not just if you're homeless and in a camp or wherever, even if you're just still going to a job and working, you can still feel that loneliness.
Absolutely. I agree.
So as we kind of transition here, there was a turning point. There was a, like you mentioned, kind of almost a miraculous saving grace situation where the car wouldn't go even though you were attempting to get it to go. And I'm sure that there were other things that either people or circumstances that just kind of started to shape and form your life story as it is now. Can you walk me through, or walk our audience through some of that transition? And I'm sure, like you said, it wasn't just this, here's a little magic wand and suddenly everything's better and you got this beautiful life. It doesn't happen that way. And it's a process to start to grow into. So, can you walk us through some of those processes and the pain of growing into the role that you have now?
Absolutely. There was, so when I had, after I was going to go over that hill, and again, um, I felt there was a strong, um, a strong force at the time that wouldn't allow me to go over. But again, it could have just been myself. But um, I, when I had went back, there was on, because we had a campsite and there was a little community area, so I went back just to the community area and just kind of was crying. But there was a newspaper there that had said, that had the rentals, actually the rental page was open, and so I just started calling. I used my friend's phone and I started calling rental places. I had no money, no nothing, but I knew that's where I needed to start. And so the first one that I had went and looked at, I went and looked at it, and we were done. And she said, "Okay, you're going to need first month's, last month's, and security deposit." And I put my daughter in the car, and I just started bawling. I said, "I'm going to be honest with you. I have no money. I don't have a dime to my name, but I will work. I'll do whatever you need me to do. I will work. I'll work. I'll work. Will you just give me this chance? It's really cold, and we're living in a tent, and I can't get a job without a place to live. I'm just being completely honest with you. Like, I'm at my breaking point." And I mean, I think she just felt bad for me, honestly. But either way,
I don't think
uh,
it was just that. I think that, again, comes down to there are forces that you mentioned that, but the grace of God just kind of stepped in and gave her the empathy that was needed at that exact moment. Because I, I have seen people do things and they're like, I have no idea why I did that. I just felt like I needed to do that. And there's this aspect of it, of this kindness that's being shown by a stranger to you.
uh,
And there's two sides of that, but keep going, because I think there's so much there.
and at the time, I didn't know it was the grace of God, right? So I'm simply speaking of at this time when I did not know the Lord. So now I know it's the grace of God. Now I know, with everything that I have, that it was God just giving me a little bit here and a little bit there to keep me going.
Yeah.
You know, say, listen, I have you. Like, I'm showing you. Um, but so then I started, cleaning for her, her apartments, getting them ready. Then I started managing her apartments. In that process, there was a church up the road. So ended up going. It was a full black church, which was the first church that I'd walked into, walked in, and I'm the only white person there. Now, I don't look at color. I don't care about your color. I don't care about any of that. But when I walked in, I was like, oh goodness. I mean, they were really praising the Lord. And I had never really been to church,
The
and so
culture there is so loving.
I'm
That's the biggest thing.
like,
They're
this is
so
so
loving.
different. But I mean, they ran up to me and they loved on me. And this is what I always say, like, that church and those people in that church, they love the Lord with their whole heart. And they took someone who was, what I feel was literally in the pit of hell, and they loved me back to life.
Mm.
And so that is what, and it did take years, but through those years of continuously just loving me, and continuously through all of the things that I went through, and just seeing who God truly is, and all of that, and doors opening, and I was able to start to see who I really am without all of the money, without the stuff, without the titles, without the material things.
So, what was the biggest challenge that you faced, kind of coming back and rebuilding and literally recreating your identity? What was the biggest challenge that you would say out of all of those things? What was the biggest challenge that you faced?
I would say the craziest thing in all of that was when I became a Christian, other Christians, as far as my family, not, my grandparents, my aunts, uncles, stuff, them just thinking I was crazy. So that's why I am so big on now. Judgmentalness as Christians, I think, is a very sad, and it breaks my heart. That's why I'm all about, like, we need to love people back to life. Like, that's what we're called to do. And so one of the most things, like, I knew that God had saved me. I knew that there was things, like, I almost died, but they're seeing this radical Christian and they're totally judging and thinking I'm going crazy. And so for me, that was super hard, because I'm like, wait, I've changed my life. I'm not drinking. I'm not doing drugs. I'm not like I'm going to church, and people who say they're Christians, who say that they love me, are calling me crazy. And so I think that was probably one of the hardest things for me.
Oh. And was it so you mentioned, was it family or was it people just in the community? Was it the religious organization? Like what specifically there?
I'd say it was, family from Michigan. It was some family from Michigan, because they grew up. My grandma was Catholic, didn't understand the, joy of the Lord. And this is nothing about Catholics. I'm not judging anybody. That's not it at all. There's a difference between when you're running around in a church praising the Lord, and when you're at church, you can hear. And let me also say, any church that you go into, God can speak to you. So you walk into a church, if you're in that moment of despair and sadness, and thinking that and you just need to feel something, you can walk into any church. And if you open your ears, the Lord will speak to you. So, and you'll hear something from him. So it does not matter. But just the difference in the way that they were. So when I was praising God, and it was a different way than what my grandma knew. So, I started, now I have a job. Now I'm able to call them. Now all that stuff is starting to fit in my life. And they're just saying, come back home. This is crazy. How you're acting is crazy. I'm like, wait, but I feel something different that I've never felt before. Something is filling this void that I never had before
Mm-hmm.
filled. And so I think, that was such a hard, for me, that was just a really hard period in my life, where they didn't understand that I was choosing the Lord and filling this void, because I needed to find my identity. Because through growing up with the craziness of my family and the craziness in life and all that, I never felt like I always wanted to be somebody else.
Mhm.
So I was always looking for the next best thing.
Wow, that's a big statement. To say that you've always wanted to feel like you wanted, or so I always wanted to be somebody else. I didn't want to be me. I didn't want to be the person that I was in my body. Man, give me a little more on that one, because I think everybody at some point in time in their life struggles with that part of the identity. Like, dude, there's something wrong with me, and therefore, because something's wrong with me, I don't want to be me. I want to be somebody else. And we put on a mask. We chameleon into whatever else is going on. Talk a little bit towards that.
I mean, I see it so often, but I can 100% speak on myself. I see seen people. I was emancipated when I was 16, but you see people going to college and, going to get their doctrines and, very intelligent. I was never, um, I didn't get bad grades, but I didn't get great grades. Intelligence was never my top priority or whatever. There was never, I always had a different body type as everybody else. And you, especially as the years passed, women compare themselves to other women. And I believe that men do this too, although they do not say that they do this. Out loud, women may do this and it ends up turning into jealousy, which is so sad. I see it. I see it so often where women, instead of uplifting other women, they try to bring women down. And men, you just don't talk to that person because you're intimidated. And I'm not trying to speak for men because I'm not a man, but you don't really talk to the person next to you because you're intimidated by how they look or their success, whatever it is. For me, I always wanted to be that person that looked the part, that seems like the part, that was intelligent, that could use all those big words, that maybe was going to school to be that lawyer, even though I didn't really want to put in the work to be that lawyer. I just um that had the perfect looking family, there is no, let's just be honest, there's no perfect life. There's no perfect family, no matter how much social media wants to portray it. I don't care how everybody in their life wants to portray it. There's no perfect anything. And so we should just be trying to uplift people and love them because we all have insecurities. But yes, I would say from the time I was young, it was not, hey, I want to be, I want to be a vet. I want to be a princess. I want to be a this. It was, I want to be everybody else because everybody else has a better life than I do.
Mm. Yeah, and that's such a trap to get just drawn into. I mean, like, you look at that, and I think that's such a you hit the core of what that trap is I want to be somebody else, or I want to have something else that somebody else has, right?
Yeah.
And that's the trap that we get sucked into, and that's what we get started as far as chasing things, and whether it's materialistic success, titles, whatever, that part of it, it's all just a rat trap. We call it a rat race at times, but I mean, literally, it's just a trap that we get sucked into, and it's just this viral, constant go adrenaline rush and everything else that happens with that. So let's look at this, and I love the path as far as how we've gone, but what do you do now? What are the habits? What are the routines? How are you crafting the story of your life right now? What is the positive growth things that you do to be able to you mentioned you have a beautiful life. What is it that you're doing to maintain, because I know it doesn't just happen. Beautiful lives don't just happen. It takes work. So what do you do to create and craft that story now?
Well, first and foremost, I personally keep God first. I have found my life without God the center of it, and my life with God the center of it. My life with God being the center of it is so much better than my life without it. And so what I've realized is that having him the center of my life keeps all those holes that were in my heart filled with more positive things, right? So um I I try my very best to keep him at the forefront of everything I do. And that includes my family, my what we do, which is our nonprofit. We own a pizza shop that helps provide funds for the nonprofit. Um and again, listening and obeying to what he calls us to do. So a funny part about the pizza shop is I don't even like to cook. at all. So, so when the Lord called us, when I said we want to be able to hire veterans, and He said, okay, He kind of gave us, it wasn't like this, okay, like the heavens open up. It's like this process, right? Of, okay, our hearts want to do this. And then something, months go by and you feel like nothing's happening. And then the pizza shop ends up becoming for sale and we can't afford it, and there's such a process, and then someone comes in, God brings someone in that's able to help us with it and donates money for it, and it's just this huge process, but we didn't give up, right? That's the whole thing. And that's what I want to tell people is through everything, and the best advice I can give you from how, if you're in despair right now, don't give up. That's what I've learned these past 20 years, because it was about 19 years ago that I was homeless. Don't give up. But when we get this pizza shop, we renovate it, because it ended up what we started doing was renovating homes and selling them. And we renovated it, and I'm sitting there and I'm going, Lord, what the heck? I don't even like to cook. What am I doing at the pizza shop? I don't even know how to cook. I've never worked in a kitchen in my life. I waitress. I like to talk to people. And he said, but you know how to love people, so start writing on boxes. And that'll bring people in. And that's what we've done. But the reality of it is keeping him at the forefront. And he will lead you. Even if some people will say, but I don't know if it's him. But if you do it thinking it's him and believing it's him, and you're doing it, if it's something positive, you can't go wrong with it. Like he's not like, he doesn't have a rod that says, well, you did something onto me thinking that it's me. I'm not going to like burn you down because you chose to try to make me happy. I don't know. So I don't know. The way people think about him is so different than what through 20 years I've learned who he is. He's like a father who loves and cares. And yeah, there's just so much more to that, I guess.
No, I think it's good though, as far as looking at the fact that it is well, here's what I love most is you didn't say, here are the 4 things. Here's the 4-step pattern. Here's the 6-step, whatever. Like there was nothing that was 1, 2, 3. It was really, realistically, just do something. Do something. And it doesn't honestly matter sometimes what it is that you're doing. You just have to do something. You have to actually take that step. You've got to do the action. And then things start to happen, because so often you see one side or the other. You either see somebody, well, I can't do this because I'm not prepared, or I'm not this, I'm not that. There's some reason why you can't do. That's given, because that's that's the natural reaction. Or the other aspect is, if I do exactly these 4 things, it's going to work out perfect, which is frankly what society tells us and how we're supposed to live our lives. Is step 1, you go this, 2, 3, 4. I mean, just like this. And that's frankly not what I have seen in my own life. Is it's not a straight path. It's crooked. It's kind of back and forth, and try this and try that and go this way and try that. And then things start to work out. And you're like, oh, this is I see why. And you learn things as you go through it too. That's the other key. You learn by doing things, and you kind of like, okay, well, we shouldn't probably do that again. We should do something different. Good.
Yeah, it is. I mean, every step, every day, I think is learning. Whether you learn and it benefits you, or you learn and you understand that that's something that you're not going to do again. I mean, you just have to do. You can't sit around.
Oh, absolutely. Yep. Yeah. So tell me just briefly. We're going to start to conclude here, but I want to ask this question. What? It's a why what question. Kind of goes back and forth. That's why I'm kind of struggling, because I'm not sure if it's a why or a what. But what is it that makes you so passionate for the current nonprofit that you're in, the situation with the pizza shop, and then I know that you're nonprofit Heroes Never Alone. What makes you so passionate about it?
There's many things. We've always had a deep appreciation for our freedom. I mean, I won't say always, I'm going to be honest with you, but as I've aged and just realized and understand what it means to be free. So through the years of my husband and I being married, and we've always wanted to teach our kids the importance of being free and what that means. We're able to tell our kids good night and good morning every day. Wow. other families are not able to do that because they're out protecting our country. And so it's so important that, and what we realize is through the more recent years is technology just really takes over children. And what, veterans wearing their hats, wearing their shirts, wearing their full attire, come into a restaurant or walking down the street, and you don't have these kids or even parents looking up and saying, hey, thank you for your service, looking into their eyes. Everyone is so consumed with. And so when we were kind of together, my husband and I, and there's a much bigger story, but together we were kind of complaining about it, and we just felt like the Lord had said, listen, you can keep complaining or you can do something about it. Like, complaining's not going to get you anywhere. And so we just sat down and thought, okay, what can we do? And we started, and I tell everybody this, if the Lord would have told me all of what we do now at the beginning, I would have said, no way that he would call us to do this. I am not equipped. There's no way I would be the one he would choose to do this. So he just gave us like one little baby step at a time. So it's like, here, take your money and purchase property and renovate homes and do this. And then it's like one little thing after another little thing after another little thing ends up this really huge thing after 3 years. But if all of this would have been opened eyes, I would have ran the other way and said, nah, Sally, Sarah, whoever is way better, would have been way better person to do this than me.
Yeah. And I think that happens in many of our lives. We find that it's like, oh, I don't know how I got here, but this is what we have and this is what we're doing. And just opportunity breeds upon opportunity. So I know there's going to be people that are going to say like, oh, she said there was a bigger story going on. Is that a quick story, a short story? Because I guarantee somebody's going to say, what was that other story? Because I wish she would have said that other story.
Well, I'll just say everything has a story, right? So the little thing that when I look back to our lives, the last 20 years, and that's what I say, so many people live in their like real past life, and it makes me sad when I see people live into where they were when they were teenagers or how they were. Like, I want people to live their best life now. Like their best life. Get up, be grateful, find just something small to be grateful. Live your best life right now. But I think every story that we have and kind of where we're at has such a story that goes into that and how it happened. Like, there's so many. I mean, people are always like, you should write a book. I'm probably not going to do that unless God calls me to. And it's not just me. Like, if God did it for me, he will certainly do it for you. He will certainly do it for any single person who's listening to this podcast and who wakes up in the morning and says, hey, I'm going to just think one positive thing today instead of taking my own life. I'm going to do one step at a time, because I was nobody, but yet I just did that, and it took me 20 years to get where I am. But I'm so thankful that 20 years ago I didn't take my own life, because now we have this.
Yeah, that's incredible. Incredible. All right. So as we conclude, what's the one thing, and that may be what you just said, that may be the one thing, but what's the one thing that you would hope that somebody would walk away with from this conversation? Whether it's something that they can apply or something that you just want them to grasp and understand. What's that one thing that you would share?
I would say believe in yourself, not just what you see, not what you believe, but your identity through the bigger picture. So for myself, I believe my identity through Christ. And at one point, I had to put actually scriptures all over my counters, all over my cabinets, because I was in such a depression, all over my bathroom sinks, to actually start to believe that I am more than what I felt. And so the one thing I would say is just stop thinking negatively. Your mind is very powerful, and start thinking positive, and your world will start to change.
I love that. Absolutely love that. So I know heroesneveralone.org is one main, but what is that the way to get in contact with you, or how would people be able to reach out? And if they wanted to just chat or, say thank you or whatever, how would people reach out to you?
Yeah, heroesneveralone.org is a perfect way. We also own the Ligonier Fox's Pizza Den. It's pizza with a purpose. So if you look online, on Facebook, we're on Facebook. I think we have an Instagram, but I'm going to be honest with you. I don't, like, I'm not very good at any of that. I think we just started a TikTok, but I don't even know how that works. Facebook is the biggest way to be able to see what we do. So Heroes Never Alone Inc. and Pizza with a Purpose, Ligonier Fox's Pizza Den. So there's 3 different kind of Facebook pages. And those are all, yeah. And always I work up at the shop just like everybody else. So we're not the owners that are sitting back and kind of, we're right there loving on people. So coming into the shop is a great way to see us. And I'd give you a hug if you walk in. Everyone always says, like, it seems like it's just like a family atmosphere. If you walk in, I'll probably give you a hug. So
Yeah, I'll add this because I know looking at the website, the heroesneveralone.org, on the bottom of their page, you can actually link with all of the socials, and then you can even send an email. And we'll definitely put this in the notes. It's heroesneveralone.org, and you can definitely get connected that way. Is there anything that's on your heart that you're like, hey, I just need to say this one thing?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I just want every single person to know that you are worthy.
Yeah.
I would say that you're worthy.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So, as we conclude again, there's so much in these stories that we write and craft. And I love what Shela said in regards to the fact that, one story kind of leads into another, and we build our lives upon these stories. So as you work and as you go about your life and you craft and create your story, I want you to remember, number one, it takes work. Definitely takes work to build and craft and to grow. And don't shy away from that because it's worth every amount of sweat and effort that you put into that. But more importantly, you need to keep crafting your story because you have value just as you are. Your story has value and somebody will benefit from that story.